Welcome to Wrasslin Raw!
All right, you're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when Raw became war and attitude ruled. Thank you for joining us. You are here with the big Italian, Ryan Arico.
Well, thank you, Pennsylvania Joe. I guess I don't have anything really extra to add because this is a special bonus episode.
It is. We are without our lead co-host here, the son of Rob Bartlett, Jason Bartlett. He's our Intercontinental Champion. He's holding that working man's title. He is working hard.
The People's Champ.
The People's Champion. He's like Ric Flair, working 7 days a week and twice on Sundays. So he's held up with some other things. So we decided that we would do a little bit of a retrospect on WrestleMania 14. For those of you who may be new to our program here, we recorded a recap of WrestleMania 14 last week. So if you're new to this and you like what you hear today, go check out the archives, WrestleMania 14 from last week. And hey, go check out the other 234 episodes that we've recorded over the past few years.
Been doing it a while now.
Yeah, so without any further ado, I want to get into this episode. Now, I do have to say that there may be spoilers. Ryan, I don't know if you have any spoiler alert sounds on your board there.
Spoiler alert.
Yes. It almost sounded like a Kmart blue light special. Spoiler alert, meaning we may talk about some things that happened after WrestleMania 14, maybe get into WrestleMania 15 and what to expect at that event. So if you're not a fan of spoilers, then you may want to tune out during those sections of the show. So we have about 6 or 7 topics here that we want to discuss that led us to this point, WrestleMania 14. And we're going to start with just a general road to WrestleMania 14 topic here. So Ryan, I will go ahead and let you start us off and give us your thoughts on that topic, the road to WrestleMania 14.
I think the big story between WrestleMania 13 and 14 is just the transition to the Attitude Era and getting Vince McMahon out of the commentary and more into his character. And I don't think there's a better way to do it than to just look at the card from WrestleMania 13 and the card from this year's WrestleMania 14. Starting with 13, first match was Mosh and Thrasher versus the Blackjacks, the Godwins, and Doug Furnas and Phil LaFon.
I want to rip that to shreds, but knowing what we saw for the first match in WrestleMania 14, I don't know.
It's a very similar one.
Yeah.
This is a fatal 4-way, and like you said, so we had Animal and Hawk winning against a fucking slew of junk here in that fatal 15, or the
fatal
15 battle. Fatal for everyone watching, but yeah, so there's the first match. Second match in WrestleMania 13 was Rocky Maivia defeating the Sultan.
Not many are going to remember The Rock's first WrestleMania match.
No, and that was back, that's Die Rocky Die time.
Yeah.
He's still, Rocky Maivia. He's not The Rock yet, and he's going up against the Sultan. And the match in this one was Taka versus Aguila. So, I don't know which one was even, the Sultan's terrible, but I don't know. That's a toss-up.
Yeah.
What do you think?
They're both good number 2s. I'll just say that.
Yeah. Number 3, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, not Triple H, defeats Goldust. If we remember, that was like their 9th match together. It was getting stale.
Well, I do remember that's the match where Chyna shook Marlena like a rag doll, so that was the highlight there.
Yeah. And this year, the third position, Triple H, he seems to be a standard there. It was Triple H defeating Owen Hart this year.
Yeah.
I don't know, both this year's was probably a little bit stronger, I think, just character-wise for Triple H.
Even with the handicapped Owen Hart with his foot injury, it definitely was a lot better than that one last year.
And WrestleMania 13, next match, Owen Hart and the British Bulldog retain the titles after a draw with Mankind and Vader.
I'll be honest, I totally forget that.
Yeah, I don't remember that one really at all.
Yeah.
And this year, the number 4 slot, Mark Marrow and Sable defeat Luna and the artist formerly known as Goldust. So
that was the surprise of the event for me.
Both of us. Bartlett isn't here to defend himself, so we might as well rip into him.
Well, 18%er.
He hated it. He found nothing redeemable about it, but I was pleasantly surprised with it.
Yeah, same.
The next one for WrestleMania 13, and this is a big one, Bret Hart defeats Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah.
With special guest referee Ken Shamrock.
And that painted on ref shirt.
Yeah. One of the all-time greats, that match.
Arguably the best WrestleMania match ever, so it's tough to hold up to that, yeah.
That is. And then we have, after that one, Shamrock stayed in there, involved. This was The Rock versus Ken Shamrock, which was another strong match. We all liked it, but it's not Bret Hart versus Stone Cold, the double turn.
Yeah, I was highly entertained by both, but it's tough to go up against, like I said, one of the best matches ever in WrestleMania history.
Yeah, that's pretty difficult. The next one in WrestleMania 13, Ahmed Johnson and Hawk and Animal defeat Crush Farouk and Savio Vega in a Chicago street fight.
Ooh.
That one's a miss. Going up against Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie defeat Billy Gunn and Road Dogg.
Clear winner there.
Yeah, clear winner there. And then the final match of WrestleMania 13 was The Undertaker defeats Psycho Sid to win the championship, which I think we all agreed was... Yeah, nothing too great. Sid isn't all that awesome in the ring. Then coming back, we're still with Undertaker and Kane at WrestleMania 14, which story just on another level. Match definitely better than Sid.
Yeah, definitely more to work with there for Undertaker than with Sid, and really not much story going into it.
None whatsoever. And then WrestleMania 14 had an extra match. The final match, Stone Cold Steve Austin defeats Shawn Michaels to win the belt and become the new heavyweight champion. So I guess to give my thought on it is last year certainly had the one stronger match, Bret Hart and Steve Austin, one of the best matches ever.
Yeah.
But full card this year was clear winner, I thought.
Yeah.
Like just way better other matches. In the Bret Hart Stone Cold match, that was third to last. It wasn't even the final thing. So I think there's definitely some glaring differences between last year and this year. And just Rocky Maivia to The Rock, Stone Cold coming into his character, just all around, we can see the trajectory of where things are heading.
Well, not only that, but look at this comparison of celebrities. There weren't any at all, really, with WrestleMania 13.
No, they got away from that because...
Outside of maybe, I guess you could consider Ken Shamrock a sort of a celebrity. He was an outsider.
But he was coming in, they were starting him as a wrestler, though.
But the use of Mike Tyson, that really puts this event over the top, for sure. Yeah. Brings you back to the days of WrestleMania 1 when they had all those celebrities. Like, this was 13 years later, and that's, once again, a celebrity is helping push the event. Push, I should say. For me, the road to WrestleMania 14, I think everything that they had to overcome to get here. They had Stone Cold Steve Austin was their guy, and he broke his freaking neck. So they had to overcome that. And then we had the whole Montreal screw job in November that they had to overcome, because who knows what they had planned had that not happened.
Right.
And then we had Shawn Michaels get injured his back, and still made it through the event. So just a lot to overcome to get here.
Without the screw job, my understanding is this WrestleMania match was supposed to be Shawn and Bret again. Yeah,
or Bret and Austin. Like, who knows what would have happened. So yeah, I think the thing for WWF is they were doing a good job at stacking their roster so that when they lost guys like Diesel and Razor and then Bret Hart later, they had guys that could step up and take over.
Them.
Yeah. Next topic, we brought up Mike Tyson. We're going to talk about WrestleMania celebrities and the use of the celebrities in WrestleMania 14. And I can start us off here. Obviously, Pete Rose. The appearance of Pete Rose was just legendary, epic.
Yeah.
So unexpected. We did, again, I have to ask, did we even know that he was
to pick him up?
Did we know he was going to be there? I asked that before. I can't remember.
The week before, I think they told us.
So compared to Mike Tyson, there was really no buildup for Pete Rose, and Pete Rose stole the show, in my opinion.
Yeah, he knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, and obviously Mike Tyson, from the very beginning when he appeared at the Royal Rumble and over the next 2 months, just knocked it out of the park as well. I think that we've said it a bunch of times, he was very happy to be there and wanted to get involved, especially when the crotch chopping started. He just really wanted in on all of that.
Off the chart and that.
Really, the main purpose of bringing in celebrities is to get some outside attention. And I think they got it. They were featured on ESPN and all the national news.
Local news, national news.
Yeah, for bringing in Mike Tyson. And it was a great job of using that celebrity. And Mike Tyson was great from start to finish.
I couldn't agree anymore. I think WrestleMania 14 was probably the best use of celebrities since WrestleMania 2. Like WrestleMania, there were some celebrities, but Vince went balls to the wall after the success of the first one.
Yeah.
I went back and looked at the list for WrestleMania 2, and it's insane. First off, of course, Mr. T. He's involved in the boxing match with Rowdy Roddy Piper. But listen to this list. We have Ray Charles, Joan Rivers, Joe Frazier, Ozzy Osbourne, Dick Butkus, William the Fridge Perry, Tommy Lasorda, Elvira was there. And this isn't even everyone on the list. That list was unbelievable, but I think WrestleMania 14 was probably the best use since then.
Yeah.
We talked last year, they didn't really use any at all. We go back a few years, we had Jenny McCarthy and Pamela Anderson and Jonathan Taylor Thomas or something.
And Nikki Turturro, of course.
And Turturro, who saved that WrestleMania. But this one really knocked it out, like we said, with fucking Pete Rose. My God.
Right.
When he got sent straight to hell, just A++.
Yeah.
And then Tyson, this, unlike any other time, except for maybe Mr. T, we actually have him involved in the storyline leading up to WrestleMania. So I think that was really what made it feel a little bit special, is it wasn't a shoehorned spot. It felt organic, and he's been there for a couple months to help develop this story. Pete Rose and Mike Tyson thing just really worked with me. Oh, yeah, I guess Jenny Flowers was there too, but
we can't forget about her.
Yeah, can't forget about her. But excellent use of celebrities.
Yeah, looking back on stuff that we've covered, a few years ago, the Lawrence Taylor appearance was very impressive. And
it was.
They did build up to that, but compared to this Mike Tyson appearance and all the appearances that he made, it doesn't really hold up to that. I think that Mike Tyson just crushed it here from start to finish.
Well, and just the stakes of the match, too. LT was against Bam Bam, and don't get me wrong, I love Bam Bam, but he's a mid-carder. This was the final match, the head-carding match for the heavyweight belt. This was, you couldn't be more involved in the story.
Right. Yep. So very good use of celebrities this year at 14. And our next topic is the rise of The Rock. So, Ryan, I will let you start us off on that one.
As I started to talk about when we talked about the road to WrestleMania, last year, this time, we were talking about Rocky Maivia and Die Rocky Die, and the fans just wanted him off the screen. They weren't entertained at all, but in this year, especially the last couple months, he's The Rock now. He started using that name a little while ago, but that personality, the style, everything about him is The Rock now, and the fans are starting to take notice. The Rock, it's hard to deny that he is probably the biggest actual star to to ever come out of wrestling. Movie star. He went on to become a movie star and a household name known around the world, probably like no other wrestler, even Hulk Hogan. He tried to get into movies, but let's be serious when we talk about his movie career compared to The Rock. Now, if we're going to say wrestling, we're going to talk about Stone Cold later. Yeah. I think Stone Cold is the number one star of wrestling, but The Rock, he's probably the most famous name ever to come out of the WWE, and we're watching that rise right now, and it is super exciting to watch.
Well, The Rock did get involved in wrestling again this past year, but I was going to say there's probably several people who know who The Rock is because of his movies and have no idea that he was a wrestler.
Yeah. Yep. They know him as Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, that may not be the case now because, like I said, he was involved in wrestling this year in 2024. But yeah, he's the biggest star to ever come out of the business. I guess the big difference between him and Hogan is, like you said, the movie quality and just the
right.
number of movies too. This guy's churning out like 3 movies every year.
Consistently on the list of most paid actors and shit.
For me, for the rise of The Rock, it's really started with the feud with Steve Austin. I think when they put him in that little feud with Steve Austin, and they also threw him into this little leadership quarrel with Farouk. I think that's really what kickstarted The Rock that we know. He's been here since the end of 1996. Like we said, he was Rocky Maivia. He was actually injured for a few months and was gone for a few months. I think that Austin feud really, really kickstarted it for me personally with The Rock.
That famous bridge scene.
Yes. Yeah.
It's burnt into your head.
And credit to Creative for sticking with the Nation of Domination stable, because you remember the beginning of that stable was like, it's not that great.
Ahmed Johnson, Savio Vega. Yeah.
And they revamped it a couple of times and they got The Rock in there and it really improved drastically. So credit to Creative for sticking with that stable and allowing The Rock to work with guys like Farouk that can help him get over. And die Rocky die. Well, Rocky did die, just like the crowd wanted, and The Rock was born here recently. Catchphrases and the look is there now. So really exciting stuff headed into post-WrestleMania. Now, our next topic is probably one of the, if not the best storyline ever in WWF history, and that is the saga of The Undertaker and his brother Kane. I think when people talk about this event, WrestleMania 14, they talk about the main event, they talk about Mike Tyson. They don't really talk about this, but everybody remembers the story leading up to this, and that's what was great for me, was the story leading up to this for months and just how it was done. It never got boring to me. It never got repetitive.
Unlike the dumpster shit with Cactus Jack and the Outlaws, they found a way to keep this fresh every week.
Yes, especially you have Kane randomly showing up and squashing people. They even kept that from getting boring because you would have Kane come out and squash guys like the Phoenix Suns Gorilla. Who was the sports guy? Wasn't there someone? There was Pete Rose, and wasn't there somebody else? Oh no, Michael Hayes. I'm thinking of Michael Hayes.
Oh yeah.
So you had him come out and squash guys like that. It just never got boring. Even when Undertaker was in that whole "I'm not going to fight my brother" perspective there, like even that stuff was not boring me. I just loved this from the start when Uncle Paul said, "Kane is alive, Undertaker. Kane is alive." That's where it all started.
You're a murderer.
Yeah. And just, it never slowed down for me. I didn't love the match at WrestleMania, but I know it's not the end of the story, so I'm not down on it at all. So I'm looking forward to what they do after the event for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree. This is the best story ever told in wrestling. I'm 100% on board with you on that. And to start off, Kane, or I guess Glenn Jacobs, I guess I should say, he had a pretty rough start with the WWF as Isaac Yankem and then Fake Diesel. Just some bad shit, pal.
Yeah.
But when you have someone with this size and athleticism, you have to try and find the gimmick that could work with him, because unlike some of the other big guys that we we've seen. This is a 7 foot, 300-pound giant that can actually move like we haven't seen probably since The Undertaker. So they picked the perfect gimmick for him. The long, thought dead brother burnt to a crisp Kane. Just perfect. And then he ran with it. You could go out there and listen to the stories of Cornette and others who helped him hone his brother to the Undertaker style, and he knocked it out of the park. He got perfect. Just the sit-up, the sinister way that he looked, and then this month after month build-up with Paul Bearer, who is the voice of Kane. This entire 6 month, we have yet to hear a single word from Kane because as far as we know, he can't talk. And Paul Bearer, can you pick a better mouthpiece for someone than Paul Bearer to come out every week and just talk this monster up, watch him squash useless pieces of trash left and right. We've loved watching that. This is absolute soap opera shit here, but I don't give a shit. This is why I watch wrestling. Kane, this is where I'll break the timeline a little bit. I've always been a mark for Kane, The Undertaker, and Paul Bearer. All three of them, I'm a huge mark. But to break the timeline, I will say, in a few years here, Taker's going to go old DOA on us, become fucking the American badass biker guy. And at that point, I became a Kane fan because if I'm being honest, I despise the rolling Undertaker. I hated it, and I was just, I was praying every week for him to fucking put the hat back on and take off the fucking do-rag. And I was ecstatic when he did finally do that, so I could go back to actually calling myself an Undertaker fan again. So that's a little bit of a break of the timeline there of what will happen with my fandom with The Undertaker when we hit there. But right now, this storyline is just something else. I love watching it every week.
You would have never guessed that The Undertaker was going to shapeshift into chains later on.
No.
I think the thing with this Kane story is it was a huge risk for them that ended up being very rewarding.
Yeah.
Because of all the hard work that went into it. You remember a few years ago, they did the fake Undertaker that didn't work out. It didn't work out very well.
Speaking of chains.
Yeah. That's where they trained someone to act like the Undertaker and move like the Undertaker.
Who would have thought the Undertaker would become the fake chains?
Yeah, right. It's all connecting. So yeah, I think that's the biggest takeaway for me is how risky it was and just how rewarding it ended up being. Our next topic is heartbreak, as Mike Tyson would call him, Shawn Michaels. We want to talk about some moments, matches from him because he's not going to be in the ring again for another 4 years.
Yeah, he's gone.
I don't know how much longer we're going to be doing this show, and we also have some SmackDown to consider, as we talked about before. So it's going to be a long time before we see Shawn Michaels in the ring again. Now, he is going to act as commissioner, I think, for a little bit. So
briefly in 99.
So we'll still get him a little bit, but Ryan, why don't you start us off on Shawn Michaels here?
As far as like most memorable matches here, he has many. WrestleMania 10, the ladder match with Razor Ramon, probably one of, if not the best gimmick match of all time. Amazing job by both guys. Very memorable. His Royal Rumble win from 95, he starts off as the first guy in the ring and makes it the whole way. And it's just it's a classic performance by the most resilient Shawn Michaels, in which, that led to the whole boyhood dream victory over Bret Hart at WrestleMania 12, that 60-minute Iron Man match, which, if I remember properly, we all didn't really love as much as it seemed everyone else did because it got a little bit boring at some points, but still an absolute memorable match, and the whole boyhood dream thing just gets repeated time and time again. But if I'm being completely honest, the most amazing match and feat to me was May 22nd, 1995 episode of Monday Night Raw when Heartbreak, for over 5 minutes, made King Kong Bundy look good in the ring. That was an amazing feat that I honestly thought no one could do. So Shawn Michaels deserves all of the credit in the world for his ring work to be able to put King Kong Bundy over. Fucking amazing. And then you have non-wrestling moments. You have the bulge, the big stick, the sunny day promos. You have the two dudes with attitude and friendship.
Friendship again?
And then, of course, his faking that he's sucking on the big stick to mock someone in the audience. All of this shit just very fun to watch. Shawn Michaels, you never know what you were going to get from him. And that's part of the entertaining thing about him. But as we found over the years, he could be his own worst enemy, be it his poor attitude or substance abuse or fake injuries to not lose the belt to people he doesn't like. He had a myriad of personal issues. But this time it was a real accident that caused a real injury that made him have to give up a belt and hang up the tights for a while here. Eventually he will end up cleaning himself up, but that's after 99. If I remember, he briefly comes back in 99, but he's a mess. And then he decides to get back surgery. And then he has a long rehab and recovery. I think he finds Jesus, cleans himself up, gets off drugs, and then makes a in-ring return in 2003 that many say was better than his original run. So looking forward to that, because during his second run was right around where I fell off watching. So I think it would be cool to start to watch his matches again.
Yeah, I fell off there too. I've gone back and watched a lot of the matches that he had in that second run. And between that and what we've seen, I can probably confidently say that Shawn Michaels is my favorite in-ring performer as far as wrestlers go. The ladder match at WrestleMania 10 is probably my favorite one from this first singles run. And I loved the Hell in a Cell match with Undertaker too, even though it's going to get greatly overshadowed in 98. But like, that was just such an incredible match. Great storytelling there. He always has great matches with the Undertaker, even though Bartlett and the 18%ers would disagree.
Yeah. And again, that's probably what's keeping Bartlett busy tonight.
Yeah.
18%er business.
Yeah. This first singles run for Shawn Michaels gave us a lot of great matches. We can't forget about the Mankind match at Mind Games too.
Yeah.
And a lot of other great matches. But yeah, you had some good and bad in there. You had the Boyhood Dream. I don't like Shawn as a babyface, particularly, especially in this first singles run that he had here.
Yeah.
It just didn't work for me, brother. And Vince just made it even worse by pushing it just too hard. I think with Shawn Michaels, it's like with anybody else. Once you're the guy on top and you're carrying the flag, it's tough to be the guy on top. They've all had their issues, whether it's Hulk Hogan, even Stone Cold Steve Austin.
A lot of pressure.
Had issues. It's a lot of pressure. And when you don't have your mind right, and he's admitted that he didn't, it's going to make it even harder. But he gave us some great matches and great moments for sure. Speaking of guys like Stone Cold Steve Austin, let's talk about the rise of Stone Cold Steve Austin. He came into the WWF in 96 as the ringmaster. My God.
With fucking the $1 million man.
$1 million man. And he was the ringmaster for about 6 months. So what a waste of 6 months there. What's wild to me, though, is that he's been here for 2 years. And right now is when it's like he's the guy. He has been the guy for the last few months now, but now he's the guy. And he's been here for 2 years. He broke his neck. This guy has been through a lot. We're at a point now where there's not a single fan in the crowd who is not there to see Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah. At WrestleMania 14, when he won the belt, I don't think we've heard a crowd cheer so loud in all of our watching.
Right.
They just went crazy.
Even if the fans are there to see DX or The Undertaker or something else, they are ready and happy to see Stone Cold Steve Austin at these shows. So I think that's where we are right now with him. And there's a lot that could be said about him over these past couple years, but that's pretty much the main point I wanted to bring up. So Ryan, what are your thoughts?
Those are amazing points. He's been here 2 years, starting out as the fucking ringmaster. And then, as we talked about in the road to WrestleMania, his match last year at WrestleMania with Bret Hart, that is the official turn. That is when they said, hey, Stone Cold, we're building you to be the guy of the company. And he took those reins, and man, in that year, the fans already were loving him. That's why they did the turn. But at this point this year, it's something we have never seen in wrestling since Hulk Hogan is the closest. But as I said earlier, Stone Cold surpasses even the Hulk, I think, in the way that fans just are rabid for him. Like, he just cannot do anything wrong. And you just look through the crowd and just how many 316 signs are out there. It's just insane. I talked about how The Rock was the biggest star to come out of wrestling. But as I said then, there's no one in my eyes that has ever came close to what Stone Cold did during this few year point of what we would call the Stone Cold era that we are just starting right now. And it's exciting shit. That's going to lead into our next thing, because him and our next topic, man, they go together like bread and butter when you want to talk about the Attitude Era.
Yeah, and that is the birth of Mr. McMahon. And Bret screwed Bret. November 1997 is basically when Mr. McMahon was born. Vince was still playing around with being a babyface after that for a little bit, but that was the moment where people started booing Vince McMahon as he would walk out to the ring, was after that Bret screwed Bret interview. So we're going to talk about Mr. McMahon. Ryan, I'll let you start that off, since he is your favorite heel of all time.
Favorite heel of all time, and deservingly, because last year this time, it was Vince McMahon on commentary, and we hated it.
Yeah.
We're not alone.
The drizzling
Vince McMahon,
shits.
Yeah, Vince McMahon, commentary was not what he was born for. But Mr. McMahon, the birth of him, that was the special sauce needed in the Attitude Era to make it the phenomenon it was. We have Stone Cold, and he's this anti-hero, maybe slight hero figure, but when the fans get to see him foil the evil plans of Mr. McMahon, again, soap opera stuff, but this is what wrestling's all about. We talk about how the Attitude Era is about blurring the lines between good and bad, but are we really? This is still about good guys versus bad guys.
Good guy? That's so passé.
Yeah, but it's what it is. It's why we come to see it, even if that good guy is a beer-drinking, finger-flicking, stunner-giving SOB. It doesn't matter, because that evil man was amped up to another level with Mr. McMahon, and he just became that figure that everyone hates, the person that everyone wants to see get their fucking jaw broken by the rowdy fucking rubble. And they got it on a weekly basis. They got that dopamine fucking rush of seeing McMahon get his ass kicked or his limo fucking filled with concrete or whatever the fucking thing was. It's because Mr. McMahon was there as the bad guy. And my God, is it beautiful to finally get there. I love it. There's really no other way to put it than we're entering the best point of wrestling ever.
Yeah. Yeah, the great thing about the Mr. McMahon character to me is that we are not really going to care about who Steve Austin is actually wrestling.
No.
We are going to be more interested in the feud between him and Mr. McMahon.
Whoever he's wrestling is who Mr. McMahon is throwing in front of him to try and beat him this week.
And that's the beauty of having that character for their creative. It doesn't even matter. Like when you have a moment like WrestleMania 14 where you have a new champion, for creative, they have to be thinking, okay, where do we go from here? Who do we have feuding with Steve Austin next? Well, in this situation, it doesn't really matter. You can throw anyone in there.
Yep. It's this week's McMahon's henchman.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so great. And WCW had done the heel boss gimmick, but the difference there is their heel boss attached himself to Hulk Hogan. the main heel and didn't really do anything else. This is a situation where the heel boss is throwing everybody after the babyface, and that's just so much easier to book, in my opinion.
And if you have someone like Stone Cold who you're building as this unstoppable hero, what better than almost a comic book style villain who he never really gets his hands on? It's always just another monster of the week he's throwing at Stone Cold this week.
It's a tale as old as time. James Bond movies. You got like Vince McMahon is like Blofeld, and then all the wrestlers are the henchmen that he's going to throw after James Bond. It's really exciting that we're here at this stage of the Attitude Era. But spoilers ahead. I know, Ryan, you wanted to take a look ahead at WrestleMania 15 to see what we have to look forward to over the next 12 months.
Yeah. So in 1 year from now, the first match of the night is going to be Hardcore Holly defeating Al Snow and Billy Gunn in a triple hardcore match. So we're going to have the hardcore title get sometime this year, and Hardcore Holly is no longer.
That is... That's exciting that he is no longer in the new Midnight Express. That's all we need to hear.
At least is less than a year.
Yeah.
After that, we have Jeff Jarrett and Owen Hart winning the tag team belts off of D'Lo Brown and Test.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea Test came in that early.
I knew he was somewhat soon, but I didn't know if it was 98 or 99. But, well, I guess it still could be 99. It could be early 99 he comes in.
Okay.
But yeah.
Excellent.
Number 3, oh my. Butterbean defeats Bart Gunn in 35 seconds.
We're going to have to really work ourselves through that Brawl for All.
Yeah.
At the end of the year.
After that, we have Mankind defeating The Big Show. So there's another big name. We got The Big Show coming over.
Yep.
That's exciting, I guess. After that, Road Dogg defeats Goldust, Ken Shamrock, and Vel Venus in a fatal 4-way for the WWF Intercontinental title.
Huh.
So I guess at this point, Road Dogg and Billy must be broken up.
I guess so,
in singles matches here.
Yeah.
Interesting. 6th match of the night is Kane defeating Triple H. Yeah, I don't know. That one... Who knows?
I know Kane eventually joins DX, right? He teams up with X-Pac. I wonder if that was before or after that.
Yeah, maybe after, because this says it's a DQ, so I'm guessing DX is involved.
Yeah.
Match 7, Sable defeats Tori for the WWF Women's title.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's rough. Now, that's the Tori that was in DX. That's not...
Correct.
She was with X-Pac, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then, speaking of X-Pac, he's the next match, number 8, against Shane McMahon, who wins. Shane McMahon wins the European title off of X-Pac.
We get to see Shane O'Mac.
Yeah, so that's another exciting thing that he's going to get introduced in the next year.
Yep.
The next one, I remember this one. It's speaking of Hell in the Cell, this is probably the least memorable one. The Undertaker defeats the Big Boss Man in Hell in the Cell.
Yeah.
That's... And then the final match, oh man, this is a good one. Stone Cold Steve Austin defeats The Rock for the heavyweight title change.
Yeah, the build-up going into that is going to be fantastic.
Well, and I think that final match really shows where we're heading for the next year.
Yeah.
This is the buildup of this feud that is, it's a supernova.
Yeah.
This feud. This is the most amazing thing wrestling is going to see in decades to come. So a clear vision of where we're heading.
And that's like, it'd be like March of 99, right?
Yeah. Yep.
January 99 was the night that Mick Foley won the title.
Correct.
There's a lot building up to that's going to be awesome to rewatch.
Yep. Well, in 98, we have the famous Hell in the Cell, the Undertaker versus Mankind. That's 98.
Yeah.
So we've got that somewhere in between here and now.
Yeah. A lot to look forward to. Definitely excited for this roster to really round itself out, because the past 12 months, we're still getting some trash. We're still getting a little bit of trash, and we're going to get to a point where the roster just really rounds itself out. And a good example is what you mentioned on that first match with Hardcore Holly. He's going to get a makeover that is already desperately needed, and he's barely been back. Yeah. Well, that's a pretty good retrospect episode, WrestleMania 14. Again, if you have not heard our WrestleMania 14 episode, go back to the archives from just 1 week ago and give it a listen. So that's it, folks. We are done with this one, and I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at wrastlinraw@gmail.com. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and tell all of your friends to tune in to the most retrospective Monday Night Raw review podcast on the airwaves. Next week on Wrasslin Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on March 30th, 1998, with matches featuring the new Midnight Express, the Kurgan, and many more. So for Jason and Ryan, I'm Joe, and this has been Wrasslin Raw.